Hey, thanks for joining me again for another edition of How to Demo Business Connect. And here we go. We're going to do call queues today, or call groups, and we'll talk about that and go through a bit of a demo and how to show you some of the really cool things that some of the call queues can do and how to present that to the customer. But really, when it comes to customer service experience, first call resolution is by far the most important key performance indicator across nearly all industries. Now, customers are expecting a consistent and rewarding experience when interacting with a company's brand, and small and medium size enterprise, SMB business, SME business, hire contact center agents, and they may not be located at the company's head office. They may be dispersed all over around the world if necessary. And as a result, it is essential to not only find the right talent, but just as important, to be able to manage the call center as effectively as possible to reduce customer effort and retain those customers. Having the right person in the right seat at the right time is paramount. So to start a dialogue around call queues or departments, we strongly suggest asking the following questions. How easy can your customers find the right person within your organization today? Very simply, how easy can your customers find the right person within your organization today? Or, how do you currently manage remote call center agents? Say again, how do you currently manage remote call center agents? There's another question too. How can you personalize the customer experience with your existing communication system? Can you personalize your customer experience with your existing communication system? Those are some really good questions. Now, we're going to go through a call queue demo, and we're going to show you what the system's really capable. Some of the key points inside it, emphasis really on personalizing the customer experience, not necessarily anything really in depth, but showing you what the groups are capable of and how they're built as far as personalization or customization for a given company. Now we're going to build a brand new call queue here and go from there. So brand new call queue, I'm going to select, again, because I have multi-site, this shows up. If you do not have multi-site, you will not see this. Extension name, we're going to give the call queue a name, and we'll call this one reservations. Okay, and to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what the extension number is. That's an arbitrary number. It's used in the back end as an extension. You get the ability to use 2, 3, or single digit, all the way up to 5-digit extension numbers. Manage your emails. This points out any of the reports or issues that happen with security changes, voice manager changes to do with this particular call queue. Who's it going to reach out to? So I'm going to use Pepe in this example as our call queue manager. Okay, and it has to be a real email address. There we go. And of course, then just select some. Let's select some members. So we'll put Fred and James, Mike Crum. How about Nick Hilder? There we go. Okay, so we got a few members inside that group, and that's all there is to it to build. Now we're going to modify that group. So let's show all the groups, because it does do it alphabetically, and our reservations group is here. You can do things when you build a group. You can right off the bat from this menu page, you can see who's available, who's not available by hitting this down arrow button on the right hand side here, and that shows you right off the bat who's available. Obviously, these 4 people, I'm outside working hours right now. It's 6:23 p.m. where I am, so they're all off work, and they're out for the day. So this queue is not going to route calls to anybody because they're all unavailable. But that's fine. We're still going to go through the experience here of setting up the customization. So let's go into the reservations just by clicking on the name. That will open up the settings for this, and you have a number of settings in here to go through through, your call queue details. These are some of the personal things, well, not personal, but particular to this queue, the name, the extension, the manager email, that type of thing. Direct number will show any DIDs that are pointed directly at this group, and you can assign a DID. Very much the same way you can assign an extension number to a user, you can assign a DID to a reservation, or a DID to a user, I should say, not an extension number. Also, the greetings and custom music on hold can be modified. So let's go into that right away. And if you look at the way the group is programmed, you'll notice that the call queue, direct number, greeting, call handling, and members, and message and notification. This is logically the direction a call flow would handle through the through the queue. Let me look at that again. So as calls come in, they're going to arrive either by the extension number or from a direct number into this call queue. Whether that extension number is dialed manually or transferred by a real user, or it's a single button press from an IVR or an auto attendant, the calls will arrive, and they follow top down. So greeting is the first thing. Music on hold are things you can adjust, and then call handling and the members that are in the group, who's going to answer that, and if they don't answer, then it goes into messaging and notification. So it's a top-down approach. So let's go into greetings. Looking at different routing options, of course, one of the things you can set up in details is when the queue is open, when it's closed. That's your operating hours and closed hours. So you're going to have a business hours routing and an after hours routing, and you have the potential of blocking calls too for annoying callers. You can add that in there. So under business hours, you can enable or disable any of these options just by hitting the click box inside one of them. Call queue greetings, is what the greeting will play, and the default, of course, is thank you for calling reservations. Please wait while we connect you to the next available agent. That is modifiable. All of the greetings are modifiable in here, and that's done, of course, through the edit button, and it gives you the ability to customize. Once you customize, then you've got different options. So you can do it through the phone, you can do it through a USB microphone, or you can do is importing. Importing allows you to bring that file in if it's pre-recorded with a high-quality microphone or in a radio station or a production studio of some sort. WAV or MP3 file, and the question I always get is, what format is that file in? Well, this little icon shows you what that file is. So typically it's a PCM file, 8 kilohertz sample rate, 16-bit mono, and technically you can do 16 kilohertz sample rate and a 16-bit mono. Sounds a little better, but yeah, those are the minimum requirements. So once this is in and you've got a custom greeting, then you can proceed further. We're just going to use a default right now. So we'll just hit done. And of course, you can listen to that anytime just by hitting that plus, that arrow, by the way, and have a listen to it. Music's done the same way. So the call queue greeting, then audio while connecting. Audio while connecting, you have the option of having music, and that music, of course, can be any of the royalty-free music that's inside the system. And again, guess what? You can customize that too. Customize that as an uploaded WAV or an MP3 file. So you have that option. So now we've got the caller coming in, business hours, going to the greeting, going to the audio while connecting. Now they're sitting in queue waiting for somebody to answer. Now you have the option to turn on interrupt audio. Interrupt audio, notice these little eye icons, they show up all over the place. They explain what these options do. So there's no issue with clicking on them. Just click on it and it says interrupt audio periodically and play a message. So interrupt audio periodically and play a message. So that will play, say, every 40 seconds to interrupt this audio while connecting and play, thank you for, please stay on the line. And you can select, again, predefined ones that are already in the system, and you can hit play and play them. Okay. And that allows us to select which one we want, if we want an interrupt message, and presenting those calls if they're waiting too long. Now, custom music on hold. Here's something that's really cool. If you have a group that's set up for reservations, for example, which we've done, we've set this group up. We have a bunch of members inside this group, and when they put a call on hold that's arrived from the group, that hold music can be customized for this group. So it can be reservation-specific hold music or commercial on hold. And again, the eye icon will explain a little bit more. Okay, so it only applies to calls that come through the queue to the agents. When they're put on hold, it plays this specific music. Okay, so it can be very specific on hold or commercial music. Once that's in play, the call gets answered. Typically, if there's, and yes, we're going to save that. The call is going to get answered by a member. So we're going to look at call handling now. So we've got all the greetings and the music on hold set up. So call handling during business hours, of course, it follows the same logic as the greetings, based on the call queue details, which is our operating hours. It all kinds of flows logically through. So business hours, after hours. Guess what? We have advanced rules in here. It's the same advanced rules that work in IVR. I'm not going to go through that again because I already touched on that in the IVR. If you haven't, have a look at the video on IVR or auto attendant, and it will show you that in greater detail as well. And there's a couple of other options, wait settings and overflow, and we'll touch on those in a second. So right off the bat, business hours, I've got it set for rotating fashion because that's the default. You can also take simultaneous or sequential. Now the differences between these are essentially explained by hitting the eye icon. Rotating, of course, regularly change the order that you ring available members to evenly distribute calls. So you want to evenly distribute them. So it's going to rotate around. It's going to Mike, Nick, James, Fred, Mike, Nick, James, Fred, in a circular fashion, okay, going to the next person that was in the list. Now, the next one, of course, simultaneous, will give the ability for all of these devices to ring at the same time. Caveat, big caveat here, we can do up to 10 extensions when in simultaneous mode. Okay, so you have to stop at 10 members inside this queue when you go to simultaneous. We also have the ability to go sequential, and sequential allows for a top-down. Now, this used to be called top-down fixed order. It used to be called fixed order. Now it's called sequential. So it will go top down essentially 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. Always starts at the top and goes down. This allows you to put your senior people at the top, your junior people at the bottom, if you want to classify it that way. If somebody gets more skilled, you can move them up, and just by sliding them up now, Fred is now number 2, and it pushes the other 2 down. Now, when Fred gets even better, we'll put him into first place, and of course, Michael now gets pushed down to number 2 position. And then, of course, we can save that and allow for those calls to go through to those users. Now that covers business hours. You do have the function in after hours. You do have to set how those calls are set up for after hours when you have an after hours schedule set. If you're 24 hours, this does not apply. Okay, so remember that. If you want to have after hours, this has to be set so you have an after hours routing. The same condition, of course, applies if nobody's available under your wait settings. So let's touch on wait settings. And wait settings are our timers inside. And you've got a number of timers. So when a call is set for rotating or in sequential, it will go from one member to the next, trying who's available, who's available, who's available, who's available. And you can have that timer set. Typically 1 minute is a good time. 45 seconds is about the 2 standards. 45 to a minute is about right. Any shorter than that, the calls will appear to bounce around in no specific order, and it'll get kind of annoying in your office. If it's longer than that, then a phone will sit and ring and ring and ring rather than trying another agent that may be available. Okay, so 45 seconds. Just keep that in mind when you're setting that up. Now, we also have a post-call wrap-up timer, which is called after last call is ended, agent will be available for the next call within so many seconds. Okay, you've got up to 5 minutes. Typically, this is 15 seconds is a good time to give a bit of a breather or pause. And then you have two other timers or 2 other numbers that affect what happens to the caller after nobody answers or disposition, what they call the disposition. So we can hold calls up to 15 minutes. And it could be as low as, don't wait, transfer directly to voicemail if nobody's available. But you can wait and force those calls to sit in queue up to 15 minutes. 3 minutes is the default. Or if it reaches a maximum number of callers inside the queue. So if you have 20 people waiting inside the queue, the 21st person will go directly to voicemail. Okay. Pretty cool. Now you can also send those callers to a heavy call volume announcement that says, all of our agents are currently busy. We're experiencing heavy call volume, and just hangs up on the caller. Okay, so that's your options there. Now you do have an overflow. Understand overflow affects the call queue only when all agents are unavailable or busy. It does not affect the queue or overflow that call if there's no answer. Okay, the no answer condition. This only works when all agents are busy or unavailable. Got it? Okay, now the last thing that happens, what happens to that message or voicemail? Now, the voicemail itself, yes, I'll save that. Thank you. The voicemail itself is customizable and specific to this reservations group. So it can be, thank you for calling the reservations group. Sorry, we're not able to take your call. Please leave a message and we'll get an agent to call you back as soon as possible. That's typically what your voicemail greeting is going to be. Again, you can edit that, customize it, upload an MP3 or a WAV file of a customized recording. And then, of course, when that message is left inside the system, what do you want to do with it? You can select an extension to be the message recipient. That can be the manager of the queue. It doesn't have to be the queue itself. So you can select somebody in particular. Say Fred is the manager of the group. So Fred is going to get the voicemails, and it will show up at his extension, 733. So his desktop app, his mobile app, his physical phone, the light will flash when voicemails are left, and we can save that. Now, settings, you also have an after hours greeting as well. So it follows along kind of the same logic as far as your call handling and members and your message notification and your greetings all have business hours and after hours settings. So you have that availability. By default, everything is 24 hours setting. So the last setting inside messaging and notification is the ability to set your notification specific to this group as well. I have voicemail to text turned on because this is a premium edition account. And I'll look at notifications here. And what happens is voicemail messages will include the MP3 file and sent via email to the manager that's on duty. Okay, you can have multiple people in here as well. So you can put a comma or a semicolon and put multiple emails. And that covers call groups. Hopefully that covered everything that you needed to know about call groups, and hopefully have a super success on presenting this portion of it as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the bottom and hit that bell icon so you get notifications of newer emails that are popping in. And once again, thanks very much for joining, and see you next time. Thanks.